Hello, greetings. I hope you are well today. Can someone just please put a little jot down here if you can hear me and this is live streaming correctly? And then as soon as we get that, we will get started. And let me see here. Today we'll be talking about environmental cancers that are listed on the American Cancer Society's website. And let me just get all my stuff lined up. Make sure we have that all ready to go. Okay, I see someone's on here, so we will get started. Let me share my screen. Let me get there. Where did Zoom go? Here we go. Share screen. Okay, you should be able to see my screen, so that is exciting. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today, as I just said, is going over environmental cancers, but we're just going to do a recap in case this is the first time you've ever been on for this, and this is day 3 of 5. Tomorrow we'll be talking about lifestyle cancers per the American Cancer Society, and then also on Friday it'll be a special breast health cancer talk. Okay, and this is not going over what you can do to cure any cancer. This is just giving you information so you can be aware for yourself and for your family of what things you could possibly do to avoid or lessen that would make a better choice for you guys, and then also limit your chances of getting cancer through what the American Cancer Society website says. So per the American Cancer Society, these are the stats that I need to go off of. There's estimated from 2021, because they're usually like a year behind, is 1.8 million new cancer diagnoses, along with over 600,000 cancer deaths in the United States. That's a lot. And then 50,000 plus people scheduled, sounds a bad way of saying it, or expected to pass away or die of cancer per month in the United States. And once again, that's for all ages, races, and genders. So that's obviously concerning. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about adolescents and, you know, people 18-ish and younger, about their increased risk of cancer if they even have some of the same tests that we have done, because their bodies are still developing and growing, and it changes and mutates the cells. We're going over, once again, environment today. So let me just get right over there. So just to make sure everyone's on the same page and you understand the big picture of what this says, because some of the numbers on the American Cancer Society contradict themselves. And I did speak to them for an hour plus yesterday to really get to the bottom of what it is, because they've changed some of the numbers and stats, which is okay if that happens. But there's 45% of cancers that are missing from their, what they're saying is what's genetic and what's not. So that's why. So I want to make sure that right here, that you can understand for yourself, in case this is the first time you're watching this. Where is it here? Genetic cancers are inherited genes that is passed on from generation to generation from a parent. And so, of course, there's that percentage, but that percentage is only 5 to 10% of all cancers are genetic. So that's the part that we need to be aware of, because if that's the case through deduction of math, that means that up to 95% of all cancers are on lifestyle and environment. There are acquired mutations that can change your DNA, and that is due to what we do and don't do in our life. So that goes back down to what they call first cancers and secondary cancers. When it comes to, goodness, I must be on the wrong screen here. You know, what we're doing or not doing to ourselves, or aware of that. Okay, things always change in here. This is why I love to provide links so you can see it for yourself. Genetic, let's go back here to family cancers. Now where is this at? I promise you, it seems like every day I'm on here, something changes. So inherited, we will have to find that. I'll come back to that. I know I got it here somewhere. So we'll go to the next part, what causes cancer. And so the most common cancer causes is the smoking, tobacco, diet, and physical inactivity, sun and radiation, various other infections. It does talk once again about genetics. And I know that if I click on this, it's not there again. How crazy. So then we'll go over here to, it says secondary cancer risk involving lifestyle and environment. So this is where we're talking about what this comes into environmental. Some development of second cancers are linked to the same lifestyle habits as first cancer. And this is what they used to say is about first cancer, and secondary was another thing, but lately they've changed their website. So that's including the risk of doing environmental and lifestyle things. So I just want to make sure you can see that for yourself. That's why we're doing this live. And we will move forward from here. Okay, so they're stating that sun is one of the #1 reasons of the radiation from UV radiation. So let's go over that first of what that is. Let's see if I have that right here. UV radiation, here we go. Let me make this bigger so you guys can see it for yourselves. Okay. So this is coming from the sun, is a natural source of it. There are unnatural sources of UV radiation, and we'll go over that in a second. There's 2 different main types, and each of them have the ability to change our DNA cells. So this is why we want to be aware of it. There's UVA radiation, which has to do with the sun, is mostly coming from that role. And they say that's the one that plays a particular part into skin cancer. Yesterday, we talked about what the American Cancer Society says about some skin and how things are absorbed into the skin. And so my 2 cents onto this is not from the American Cancer Society, but for my 2 cents on this is that you want to be aware of what you're putting on your skin, whether it's good or bad. You have to be aware what you're putting on, because if it's bad, then if you're in the sun just because of life, it's going to bake into your skin and it will absorb into your bloodstream. Just like they explained how there's skin topical patches that you can use for medication that's even time release for a month. So you want to be aware. And I believe it was 70 sunscreens that had benzoin in it that is on the American Cancer Society's website is causing cancer. So, you know, the FDA has not taken them off the market. Remember, it's not the FDA's responsibility to test products. It's the company themselves. They're supposed to have values and morals, test their products, and then say, you know what? Oh my goodness, this is probably not the best choice. Let's not put this out there. But people want money and there's greed. And so that doesn't obviously happen. And we know that today, obviously. The other thing was hand sanitizers, over 225 hand sanitizer recalls. And we know that almost everybody is using hand sanitizer right now, much more in the last couple of years than probably ever in life. And that does absorb into your bloodstream, right? So you have to be aware that when you're looking at these things, you just don't pick one off the market. You've got to read the ingredient label. And some of these chemicals are even on the American, that are in these off-brand hand sanitizers, are even on the American Cancer Society's website is causing cancer. So once again, it's still on the market. The FDA did do a recall on some of these, but they shouldn't have been on the market in the first place, right? So this is where we need to be aware of this. We have a UVB rays, which is slightly more energy than UVA rays. It's almost like a tongue twister here. And that is when people have extreme sunburns. This is why we do need to protect ourselves. Whenever I'm in the sun, if I'm in a lake or whatever, I always have like sort of like this sheer thing that goes over its arms. It has a hood if I want to. It's a light material, but it protects me from that because I got burned one time right here really bad. And I still have effects from that. When you do the little testing from your skin, I still have a lot of damage right here. So I make sure I cover up personally. And obviously there's people who have much more sensitive skin than I do. So it's just great to make sure that you're always covering up your kids. They allow for bathing suits these days or cover-ups that allow for that. The UC rays have more energy than other types of UV rays, but this is different and it's from the atmosphere. Some of this is man-made, which this is really interesting because I had personally didn't know all of this as well. But when you're talking about UV radiation and artificial types of that, we're talking about tanning beds, mercury vapor lighting, halogen lights, fluorescent lights, incandescent lights, which, you know, most of us have in our shops or our gyms or even schools and our basements. I know our basement did. Black lights, blue lights, curling lamps, the germicide lamps, the little hand sanitizers that you can do at home. The hand, when you're getting your nails done and you put your hand in the little UV lights, that has the same kind of UV radiation to cure, you know, gel manicures or to dry quicker. Plasma torches, welding stuff. So, you know, there's a lot more things than perhaps we think of. I knew that tanning beds had some issues, but they have a lot more issues. They are directly responsible for a certain percent of cancers that they're seeing from tanning beds specifically. So that is really important to make sure that you're aware of and that you can have the opportunity to change that so that, here it is, what's it say? I'm trying to do this live. It would have been much easier to put this in a PowerPoint and to not be delayed in what I'm doing, but at the same time, I want to make sure that you see this for yourself so that you have the opportunity to change all that. Let me get you back on sharing screen here. Okay, so now vitamin D is interesting. We need vitamin D, and you'll be able to find the recommendations. I believe an adult is 4,000 IUs to 6,000 IUs a day that an adult with normal levels should be taking to help maintain themselves. You'd have to be in the sun without any chemicals on your skin, absorbing the sunlight for at least 20 minutes, either topless or with a bra on, right? Or something, or bikini top, right? With your torso all involved. And that would be every day for a minimum of 20 minutes. So obviously we're not getting the amount of vitamin D that we need. And vitamin D is recommended that people need in order to get the right amount of what they need daily that you cannot get from the sun. This is for infants, this is for children, adolescents, adults, seniors, all of us. And there's a simple test that you can go get done by your doctor that they should have no qualms with giving you. And you can see your levels. Sometimes it's like 60 to 100 or 80 to 100. Of course, you don't want to be below that. And if you are, you can't take the recommended daily dose, right? Because then you're taking what you should be taking daily, but you got to fill your body up. So you need to do a little bit more than that. I would suggest a natural one, of course. I can't give you my personal suggestions on this video because then it'll be a conflict of interest with the FTC and the FDA, so I cannot do that. But you can do that so you can build yourself up. You can always get retested and make sure you're in adequate amounts for you and your family. Vitamin D deficiency does so many things in your body. You need to make sure they have the right amount of vitamins, minerals, good fats, so forth. We'll go through that more tomorrow. So let's go here. I think that's the end of that slide. Okay, the next part that they talk about is X-rays and gamma rays. And, you know, it's not like you're talking about Spider-Man for gamma rays or something, but do X-rays and gamma rays cause cancer? The answer right here, they say, is yes. So we know it's a human carcinogen. This is why we want to limit the tests that we're doing if they're unnecessary. You know, if someone's a hypochondriac, you really just got to get over that because the benefits of getting that scan done don't outweigh you being a hypochondriac and what can happen long term. Of course, if you have an emergency medical situation, then do whatever, you know, between you and your doctor, whatever you feel is best for you and your family. But you want to be aware of what can be doing. And then also, if a person 18 and younger, and the younger they are, the more damaging getting an X-ray or a CAT scan or other tests are, because of their body is not done developing yet, and it changes and mutates the body very quickly. So this is something that is, let me see where we gotta go here. this is something that you just really want to make sure that you check into and that you don't do if you don't have to do. Okay, let's see here. So this is what some imaging tests, right? For example, the average human has 3, I think this may be in the next slide. Let me just tell you what this is. Spine x-rays. They said teenagers and young women who have many x-rays in the spine to monitor scoliosis have been found to have increased risk of breast cancer. Dental x-rays, people who get them every single year have a chance of getting cancer. So obviously that's a concern. Like, it's just simple things that we just don't even think of, right? Now, what are x-rays and gamma rays? Once again, this is a man-made radiation, okay? So there's natural forms of radiation, which will, like radon, we'll be getting to in a second, and what the sun can put off and different things. But radon is a natural form. When we're talking about the gamma rays and x-rays, these are man-made ones, and there's different types of them where you can get for cancer treatments, medical imaging of many different sorts, food, irradiation, airport scanners. This is on the American Cancer Society website, and there's different levels of different things, of course. Let's see here. Radiation, here we are. This is the part I wanted to see, perhaps. Nope, that does not go over that part. Let's go next. Understanding the risk of imaging tests for radiation, how much radiation, here we are, average person. Okay, the average person receives 3 MSVs of radiation per year. And that's just life, the gas that's in the air, like the radon gas, which is, I believe it was 2%, which we'll find that in a second, of radiation, okay? And now, because of services that we can undergo, there's more. So if someone has a single chest x-ray, depending on where you're going, they say is 0.1 MSV, okay? Depending on how many views you have, then now that multiplies that, okay? So that's a single chest x-ray. So if you get 5 done, if you have pneumonia and you have to go back and keep getting more, obviously that increases it. A single thing for a mammogram, sometimes there's different views, and there's both breast, and there's all these different things. We'll go over a little bit more of that on Friday. And then a CAT scan is 10 MSVs of radiation. A PET scan is 25. If it's done with the dye in it, then it increases it. I believe it's a 5 to 8% of the MSVs. So if you have a contrast with it, then that increases the amount. So if you're scheduled to have, a CAT scan every 3 months, you're talking about at least 30 MSVs of radiation, where usually in a year you'd only have 3. And then if it's the contrast, you're adding another 15, which is 45 MSVs of radiation. So this is part that people just need to be aware of, so they can choose to do something or not, or maybe limit them depending on the situation. And if you're available to do so, if you get like a ultrasound or what's it called? An MRI, they don't have radiation. So if you have that available to you, then that would be a better choice. And especially even when we're talking about like nuclear medicine tests and stuff like that. I remember, let me stop this for a second. I remember when my grandma, she's passed now, one of them, but she was like 80 something, and they want to do the nuclear stress test. And so I'm like, why can't grandma just walk on a treadmill, right? She was a heavy walker, so she was in shape at the time for that. I know her immune system was low. She was not very happy. She was depressed and sad because my grandpa had passed away, and they've been together since like 14. So many years, and now that part of her life is no longer there. And she just wasn't up to it, in my opinion, to have that test done just health-wise, because it's going to lower the immune system. Now, it's like an awesome test that's like a Spider-Man or Iron Man kind of test, right? Because it illuminates the body and I wish I had a straw here, but if there's a section in the body that is having a problem, whether it's a tumor or, you know, you're not getting the blood flow through, you can see that. But when you do the nuclear stress test, when we were in the office with the lady, because we were there getting ready to have it done, when we started asking more of the questions, because I wasn't totally aware of what I always went to grandma's doctor's appointments, and I was not totally aware of what we were going there for that day. The lady, she brought us into the room. There's a metal cabinet. She got all gowned up, and this is like a couple of years ago, right? Actually, quite a few years ago. All gowned up, had a glass needle, a glass jar, had a big old skull and crossbones on it. And I said, so wait a second. I said, if this is nuclear radiation that you're putting into my grandma, and then she's going to have this test done, which I understand the possibilities of what can be done with it. And that's fantastic. But you're telling me it's not harmful to put in her veins, but yet it's stored in a metal cabinet that's locked, that you have to have two people to go into, at least at this facility, to do it. You're all garbed up looking like, you know, the end of the world's coming. And this is okay to put into my grandma's veins. Like, that's, in my opinion, that's not okay. So she did not do that test that day. She can walk on a treadmill and see how she's doing. That's what they used to do for people. That's a much better choice. There's no radiation involved. And so sometimes we need to look into these things just to be aware of what's happening and going on, so that we can make sure that, you know, we're as healthy as possible and stay that way, right? Okay, so let's go down to, here it is, 55% of radon is how people are being exposed in the public. And radon is something that comes from the earth. I have this slide in the wrong order, so let me just go back over here and get this, please. Where is radon? Okay. Okay, radon. Let me get you back here so you can see this. Sure. Okay, so radon and cancer, 55% of our radiation that comes in is due to radon. Radon is an odorless gas. It's radioactive. I was watching this video and it says all Canadian homes have radon. I was like, oh my goodness. I think that I'm sure most of us could have radon. I think that this is something that's easy to detect. It says 1 out of every 15 homes in the United States has elevated radon levels. This is something that is easy to help, and it's a huge response for lung cancer. So this is something that is easy for you to protect your family. If there's, you can go on Amazon, you can go to Home Depot, whatever's near you, and go get a radon tester that you plug into the wall. We had one in our basement. I'm not sure if we had one someplace else. I have to ask Steve, but we had one in the house. So to make sure that there's nothing going on. So that's something that you can do for yourself that's easy to protect. And then of course, if you do have elevated levels, I'm not sure what the correct protocol for that is, but you can definitely go research that and help that be taken care of in your household. Asbestos is something, these are all environmental things, once again, that the American Cancer Society is saying, you know, be aware that these things do cause cancer to some level. And so you want to be aware. Asbestos is something that most likely, if you're working as a builder or if you're refurbishing a house, you're taking down old insulation, the floors, this is something that you want to be aware of, so that you can, you know, when you watch like home improvement shows, like my favorite, you know, if there's any kind of asbestos, everyone clears out. They have a special crew that's coming that's guarded up, looks like they're going to Mars, and they take care of that so that the family can be healthy. So same thing here. We want to make sure that that's something easy that you can take care of yourself to make sure that you don't have that. Okay, health risks for secondhand smoke. So this is underneath the environmental side, not the lifestyle side, because secondhand smoke is something that, generally speaking, people don't have control over because someone's smoking in the public, or, I don't know, you can raise your hand here or say me too, but, no offense to my parents at the time, people didn't realize the offense of what smoking perhaps did to their body. Although I do remember doing a lot of reports in school, now that I think about it, for how bad smoking was. But perhaps they didn't realize how bad secondhand smoke was. And this is a huge way to get cancer per the American Cancer Society. So I know that people have, a lot of places publicly have stopped that from people from smoking inside, airplanes, restaurants now, hotels, whatever. And so that's fantastic. I remember being on airplanes and just always having a cloud of smoke. And so I remember I was thankful when that all stopped. But we're talking about cigarettes, pipes, cigars, tobacco burning, hookahs. They even talk about e-cigarettes, and they're still doing a study on those and the effects that not only does it have on yourself, but people around you. Remembering that they're using chemicals in there. And if you have any kind of flavorant that you can taste or smell, that's a chemical, right? So you want to be aware of that. And obviously, I know that's a hard thing to stop doing, is stop smoking because of the chemicals that are in there. But it's something that really needs to be changed. Secondhand smoke is a known to cause cancer. It has more than 7,000 chemicals, including 7,000 chemicals just in general, 70 that can cause cancer. Now, once again, this is still allowed, which is outrageous. I mean, the government could put a ban on this and it'd be illegal, I guess. But these chemicals are still allowed in these products. And so even though they're on the cancer list. So, go figure. This is why whenever you're researching anything, you really have to use discernment and try to use common sense with it, because some of the numbers just don't add up. Some places, the American Cancer Society website says, hey, you should limit sugars. Some places said there's no problem with sugar. It's like, well, which one is it? Obviously, we can't have such increased amount of illness and disease and cancers in our life, all across the board, illness and disease and cancers, right? And not have there be a reason for it. But, you don't want to make everyone mad. So there we go. And actually I have a great section for that in a second. So secondhand smoke causes other diseases as well. So it's just something that we want to make sure that none of us are exposed to, and especially children are not exposed to. Okay. Okay, that's a duplicate. Let me go back over here because I did not talk about this yet, did I? Okay, I had to skip around a little bit because I couldn't find what I was looking for. So let me make sure. Imaging testing, we went through that. Okay, radio frequency. In a nutshell, the American Cancer Society says that there is no problem with radio frequency. And so that's up to you to decide for yourself and what you think. If they said there was a problem with it, then you'd have to get rid of like many different household things. And people most likely are not willing to get rid of those things anyhow. So when we talk about, it says non-ionizing radiation. So it's a low level of radiation exposure. So man-made ones are your broadcast, your radio transmitting signals, cell phones, cell towers, radar guns. Always be careful with that. If someone's like a police officer and they just don't, put that right in their lap, let's say, because as a man or even a woman, that could cause some issues in my thought process. Smart meters, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth devices, heating of the body, tissue destroying them in medical procedures, welding. I don't believe in electric blankets anymore. I used to love using those, but it does mix with our electrical frequency. So you can look more into that. Welding, some PVC for certain machines, wave scanners. And of course, this is just some of them, okay? This is not all of the different sources of that. They talk about microwave ovens, and that's not a problem. They talk about full body scanners, and that's not a problem. They talk about cell phone and cell phone towers. They give that a little bit more, might increase the risk of cancer. But, you know, if they said that all cell phones were bad, then, you know, whatever. So you got to look at your cell phone, what you're doing. Personally, I think people should wear, which perhaps are annoying, but the Bluetooth in that and the earbuds in your ears, like that's just not the best choice in my opinion. You should use it with whatever you call it. I don't use these because I don't know why they don't work well with me. I love wearing earplugs, but these things just hurt my ears just in general. And some people are more sensitive to radioactive frequencies than others. And actually that's a genetic makeup where if you had genetic testing done, you can find that. Like I actually have that problem. So these don't produce any Bluetooth or radiation. So that would be a better choice than earbuds and that kind of stuff. So let's see what else is here. They say, yeah, they're saying avoid jobs that you have. This is how you can lessen your chances of getting any kind of cancer is to avoid jobs with increased radio frequency exposure, limit the time you spend next to equipment and appliances and other Wi-Fi routers that give off radiation, limit the time you spend next to mobile cell phones, place against your ear or other parts of your body. Out of convenience, I know we've all worn them someplace, but we probably shouldn't be, especially as women in the breast. And, you know, I think I'm maybe one of the only people who still have a house phone just because I talk on the phone a lot, right? So I talk on the house phone versus my cell phone as much as possible. So that's something that we can do to help ourselves. I don't personally agree with all that information that it doesn't have an effect on our body, but as I said, I will inject my opinion where I think I should. Otherwise, I'm giving you the information what the American Cancer Society says. Understanding radon risk from imaging, which we did go through that. Sorry. Let's see what this is. Okay. Secondary cancers related. This is important because once again, some people receive radiation and even chemo for non-cancer treatments. Like I believe I said the other day, I think, is that, you know, atopic pregnancies, psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis. I can't think of the other ones offhand. But people are receiving chemo for other things besides cancer, which is, you know, crazy because you're guaranteed to get cancer if you're taking chemo for some other thing, whether that's a hormone replacement one or that's the chemo pill. And if you're exposed to a spot time radiation, short term, like an x-ray, right? You have a less chance. But when you're getting radiation all the time for cancer treatment or something else, you're guaranteed a secondary cancer. And so that's the part that we need to be aware of to make sure what we are doing isn't necessary. And of course, whatever someone chooses to do for their cancer treatment is all okay because it needs to be up to them, no matter what their family or friends say. And, you know, whatever, if I have a good friend who's, I mean, I've had this undergoing, you know, cancer treatment my brother did. I didn't necessarily agree with the treatments he was doing, but I was still going to love and support him during his time and help him however he needs help. He's the one who's going through all this, not me, right? So we need to be there for our friends and our family and support them in whatever treatment that they want. My other girlfriend, she unfortunately passed, but she did natural treatments and she did pass away, and not everyone in the family was happy about it, but that was her desire to do it that way, whether she lived or die. If I got it, I would do it totally natural. I wouldn't do the other sources. That means I die. That means I die. I mean, it is what it is. But whatever any of us choose to do individually, we really need to learn how to love and support the people who are going through that because they don't need any more stress. And so that's one way I could help my brother and my girlfriend and someone else I know that has cancer, to help love them and support them during that time with whatever way that they need and want help. So there's been many cases of secondary cancers due to this, and the American Cancer Society tells you itself that people will have a secondary cancer from their treatments. So this is, and this is the other part saying targeted therapy drugs. So when we're talking about hormone or other kinds of targeted drugs regarding chemo. So that's something just to be aware of. Okay, let's see which one this is. Common, this goes into, let's see here. Where did this go? Radon, we're doing over radon. So I think we'll go here. So this is about diet and activity. I'm gonna skip through that part. I'm just gonna go over the environmental part because that's the part that we're talking about today. This is the environmental part. This is a chemical that's used in the industry for processing tobacco smoke. It's also found in French fries and potato chips and crackers and bread and cookies, cereal, canned black olives, prune juice, coffee. And so this is something that is a probable carcinogen, acrylamide. I don't know how to say this. I should have looked it up ahead of time. I'm sorry. And so this is something that is a probable carcinogen. So there's enough studies that have been done that this has been linked to cancer, okay? It's still on the market though. So this is why you have to become an avid label reader for yourself and learn what to do. I'm sure you guys have seen this before. Hopefully, if not, then you can go on my website, which is livinganointed.com. And underneath the chemical section, I think it's the first or the second PDF, it gives you like 100 of the worst chemicals. These are listed in color coded. They're all bad, but they're in color coded so that it just gives you a clue on which things are which. Even like the 4 different names for formaldehyde, which is on the American Cancer Society's website, is causing cancer. But yet it's still in a ton of our beauty products. If you don't have my book already, it's called Living Balanced, and it's on health and nutrition and chemical awareness. You can go to my website, thelivinganointed.com, or you can go to Amazon and see it there as well. Now, going back to sharing the screen, so we'll go over the environmental pieces here. Arsenic is something that people can find in their water. It is a carcinogenic. It does cause cancer. So this is something that you can have your water tested for arsenic. And then that is fantastic to find that out to make sure that you don't have any problems. I've had friends that were tested. You would think it would be just people with like wells and that kind of stuff because their water table is lower, but it's not. It's even, I had a friend that was in Grand Blanc that tested their water and they had very high levels of arsenic and it was affecting her and her health. She did not have cancer, so that's a blessing, but she had other things going on. So that's another test, just like a radon detector that you can do easily to help find out and protect your family. I laugh at this one, but whatever. They just did talk about the chemicals that were in coffee that cause cancer, but they're actually saying that coffee is good and could prevent some cancers. Voila, for those who love coffee. I don't believe that, and I don't believe everything that this website says, but I'm not going to just pick and choose what it says to give you the information. But I think you should definitely do more research. If you're talking about Starbucks, Starbucks is one of the biggest, baddest coffees, like the big bad whiff of coffee, how many chemicals they have in there. You should not even drink that. So if you're drinking coffee, find a better choice. Find one that's straight, which means chemical free, and look at their practices, because it's not like they tell you on the label, like, oh my gosh, here's our coffee and we did all this stuff to you, but you're going to love it and enjoy all those poisons in your coffee. They're not going to tell you that. So obviously there's better choice things in life. So if you're going to drink coffee, just find a better choice. That would be better. I think this is a joke. They say genetically modified crops, or GMO, has no negative bearing on your health. And it does not cause cancer. And they talk about all the different things it's in. And it's okay. And the government's approved it. So there you go. I don't believe that at all. So God created the seed to multiply so that we can have a crop for next year. And you're talking about, this is seedless food that cannot reproduce itself, that already has the pesticide, the herbicide, the glyphosate, all that kind of stuff inside the seed. right? That's a problem. That is, and glyphosate is on the American Cancer website, is causing cancer. So this is what I'm talking about. You got to have discernment. You got to keep reading and researching, because they start really contradicting themselves. So if you just go on the surface, it's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. But if you start digging back into the website, no, I guess so they can't be saying they didn't say that. You've got to dig deep to find the other information. Okay, sometimes. So they're saying if you're gluten free, or if you have a gluten intolerance, don't need gluten. That makes sense. Really, what you need to do is, if you have a gluten problem, you need to be taking some enzymes, because gluten is not the problem. It's the way that they're creating the food that is the problem, because they just milled it. They didn't let the enzymes process like they should. When you shuck the wheat and all these different grains, it's supposed to germinate. And so it gets, in the dew, it expands, and with the, in the dew, it expands. When the sun comes, it shrinks. You're supposed to like have it out there for 3 days. That's how farmers did it back in the day. And then they would go mill it, and it already activated the enzyme so that you can digest it. They don't do that today for most companies. And so if you do want to find that, you really have to search hard for that, right? And so gluten is not the problem, in my opinion. It's how they're processing it that makes it a problem, and with the chemicals that then, for some people whose biochemistry is more sensitive, creates a problem. So that's where we want to be aware of that. Glycemic index, of course, they're saying that, we should be aware of the foods that we intake, which is fantastic. They're saying that it's a probable thing that if you have too much sugar, it could lead to endometrial cancer. But other than that, there's more research that needs to be done, and that, high glycemic index, high sugar levels don't affect cancer, which I don't believe that either, personally. Inflammation and an anti-inflammatory strategy, does that help? They said that it's been recognized that inflammation is a problem. And however, a role in inflammation and causing cancer has not been recognized, has been recognized more recently, but there's not sure of the relationship and what it really does. They do suggest, however, that you lower your your red and processed meats. So great, because we don't want nitrates, right? So that would be great. We will go to this one in a second. Juicing and cleansing your body. They said that there is no benefit to doing that. That's sad. I don't believe that either. Microwaving food as a preparation and storage. They're saying it's actually a good thing to do this. It does not cause any problem, and it helps to ruin any kind of bacteria, this, that, and there. But of course, there's no way it cannot destroy vitamins and minerals as well, and even enzymes. And that's my opinion. They're talking about sweeteners and substitutes, and artificial sweeteners have, let's see, it's clear there's other sweeteners, cause chemical. They're saying that this does not have a link to cancer. And I don't believe that. I believe that causes inflammation in the body. I love this one. It says organic foods. Now, this is sort of interesting how they say this. Organic foods are fine. They're saying, it does not, there's not really a difference between organic and conventional foods, except for conventional foods. And conventional means it's a real seed, so that's a good, but they have herbicides and pesticides on it, okay? Where a GMO seed has herbicides and pesticides in it, and it's in the seed as well, okay? So they're saying there's little research that's been done between the link of organic consumption and cancer risk. And so there is a link, however, of pesticide exposure and types of cancer. So they're saying to make sure, wash conventionally grown, which we're talking about organic here, so I'm not sure why they add conventionally. But add conventionally grown produce, you can remove some of the pesticides by washing it off, okay? And obviously you cannot remove all of it because it's grown up in the fruit. You may have some externally that you can wash and rub off, but obviously it's grown up in the fruit. When you spray it, it goes into soil, it comes up through the roots, goes into flower, that creates the fruit or vegetable or whatever it is, right? So that's not all correct. Pesticides and herbicides, do they cause cancer? It says insecticides and herbicides can be toxic when improperly industrial agriculture are used in a workplace setting. Now it says classified 3 common agriculture herbicides, glyphosate, I say that wrong, melathion, and diazinon, I believe I'm saying that right, are possible carcinogens, okay? This is like the whole main thing that people talk about, glyphosate, now I'm saying it wrong. This is in water, this is in foods, this is in so much stuff. If it's GMO, it's got it in it. So they're saying that this is a possible human carcinogen. There's been enough studies done on it. But up here, they tell you it doesn't matter if there's pesticides or not. So this is where you have to read and apply common sense and discernment. Sleep is saying that you need sleep and rest and get good quality sleep. I agree with that 100%. Soy products, I don't agree with this. This is saying that soy, therefore, soy food, let's see. It's saying that you should avoid soy supplements. It's saying that soy is not a problem. I don't agree with that. I think that if you're going to eat soy, you should have organic and it should be fermented. That would be the best choice. We know that if someone has low estrogens, you can raise up their estrogens by giving them soy. So if it's not a straight soy, which means if it's not organic, if it's not fermented, if it's not done in a pure way, then it's going to cause more harm. It's going to be more of a synthetic azoestrogen, and that is from our GMO crops. So yes, I don't believe in soy. And remember, there's quite a bit that does not have to be listed on a label. So like, for example, this is why you always want olive oil that's first cold pressed, because the other presses have other oils in them that you just don't know about. So you want to be careful of what you're doing and what you're getting. Sugar, does sugar increase cancer? Several types of sugar can be found in foods and beverages. Let's see. There's no evidence that dietary patterns and added sugar affects levels of insulin and related to hormones and increased risk of certain cancers. So I don't believe that. Vegetarian diets, they go through that. They're asking people to make sure that they get enough of what they need nutritionally. And there we go. So that's interesting to me, all of that. Let's see. I think I actually went through some of the lifestyle and I shouldn't have. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm feeling like I did. Radon, lung cancer. What was this one? Asbestos we went over. Secondhand we went over. Gamma rays. Oh, if something, here's the screen right here. If something has been radiated, although irradiated, I don't think we went over this, did we? It should have this symbol on it where you see the market. Now that is something that's new, that has not always been that way. And you may not see this label all the time, but it was supposed to be so that you could be aware of it. And if it happened, let me go here. Here we go, FDA. So they irradiate the food for us as a gift, which I also don't agree with. It helps to prevent foodborne illness. It helps to preserve it, and it helps to control insects, delays the sprouting and ripening time. That is not natural. Sterilization. So they're saying, of course, it does not affect the food, but I don't believe that personally. So I try not to buy food that is, obviously if I go to a restaurant, I don't know what they're necessarily doing. I only eat at 5 restaurants because if it's not, if it's a chemical laden place, I don't eat there. But I don't believe that the irradiated food does not have an effect on our health personally. So there that goes, for whatever that's worth. I hope this has helped you learn about some ways that you can help improve yourself and your family and help with health and nutrition and chemical awareness. Sorry, I went a little long on this one. And tomorrow we'll be going over lifestyle changes. I cannot give all my opinions on this. I can't mention what I believe in using so that this video can stay up and we don't get in trouble. But I will be telling you what the American Cancer Society says, and some of their advice now is fantastic. So that's, I'm excited about that. And then Friday, we'll be going over specifically breast cancer and the things that you can do to help yourself with that. Okay. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a blessed day. Thanks.